And welcome to the Morning Pitt, the game week Morning Pitt, the first game week Morning Pitt of the 2022 season. Started this last week doing daily Morning Pitt episodes every morning, Monday through Friday. We kind of hang out and talk about whatever's going on in the world of Pitt, whatever's relevant, whatever's important, whatever you need to know or think about. Just sort of a daily Pitt show. If our Wednesday night live stream is a talk show, this is just sort of your morning update each day. And we did it every day last week. It was a lot of fun. Broke down positions, and that was great. We recapped everything we learned out of training camp. But now it's the real deal. Now it's time for action. Time for something to actually happen. Summer's over. It's done. All right. And on Thursday night, it's football season. It's officially football season. I know there were games over the weekend, but, forgive me, Nebraska Northwestern. Forgive me, Duquesne, Florida State. Forgive me, North Carolina, Florida A&M, or whoever they play. We'll look at that in a second because we are going to talk about that. Forgive me, but the games start on Thursday night. And it starts with the Backyard Brawl. And it's finally here. All the waiting is almost over. It's Monday. You have 3 days, counting it down, to the return of the Backyard Brawl for the first time in 11 years, the return of Pitt football for the first time in 8 months, and who knows, just maybe the start of something that could be pretty special. And we'll find out. Week by week, we'll find out what this team is and who this team is, and we're going to see things on Thursday night. And some of those things are going to be indicative of who the team is and what they will be for the season. And some of the things won't be indicative, for good or for bad. There will be things that develop over the course of the season that we didn't see on Thursday night against West Virginia. And there will be negatives that develop over the course of the season that we maybe didn't see against West Virginia. I've said all summer that, first of all, I expect Pitt to beat West Virginia. I expect them to be talented enough to pull out this win. But I've said that I don't expect it, or I shouldn't say it that way. I've said that I wouldn't be surprised if it's just, kind of a sloppy game. It's first game of the season. New quarterbacks for both teams. You just have your general getting on the field for the first time feel to it and vibe. And, probably going to be a little sloppy on both sides. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. And it doesn't necessarily mean that Pitt's going to be sloppy all season. It just means that in the first game, they might be a little bit slow out of the gates. Now, there's no reason they can't still win. Kenny Pickett predicted 31-10. I mean, that or even something a little bit lower, 27-10, 27-13 even. But I think it can be the kind of game that Pitt can more or less control and more or less lead throughout. They shouldn't need to come back to win this game. They shouldn't need to fight back to win this game. They shouldn't have to eke it out at the end or hold off some late furious surge from West Virginia. They should be better than West Virginia, and they should be able to win the game and open the season with a 1-0 record. And I think there will be probably close to 70,000 people in attendance to watch the game on Thursday night. I was about to say, I was setting that up to say there will be about 70,000 people who walk out of Acrisure Stadium happy on Thursday night. But the reality is it's not going to be 70,000 Pitt fans. There will be close to 70. I think there will be close to 70,000 people there. And a bunch of them, a few thousand, are going to be West Virginia fans. And I don't think they're going to walk out of the stadium very pleased with their experience. But that's just sort of based on what I think of this team, what I expect from this team, and what I think they're capable of. Of course, this show is the Morning Pitt. It's right here on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel so you never miss any of the videos we put out or anything we do, live streams and things like that. We have our Wednesday night show that's always scheduled for Wednesday nights at 8:30, except for this week when we're having it tomorrow night, Tuesday night at 8:30, just to put a little more space between the show and the game. But if you want to make sure you know when we go live, if we change the schedule and maybe you miss it, you didn't see a tweet or didn't hear me talk about it here on the Morning Pitt, if you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, you'll always know what we're doing. You'll always get a notification when we go live. So when we go live on Thursday night/Friday morning after the Backyard Brawl for our post-game show at like 1:30 in the morning, you'll get a notification to know that we're doing it. I might have just countered my own sale there, trying to sell you and subscribing to our YouTube channel, and then I tell you I'm going to send you a notification at 1:30 in the morning. probably shouldn't have said that, but that's going to be fun. I think win or lose, it's going to be interesting to see how a live post-game show goes at 1:30 in the morning. But we do that every week. We do our Wednesday night live stream show, which is like a talk show where we interact, comments and questions back and forth. And then we have a live post-game show that we'll do right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Road games, it'll be pretty much right after the game. Home games, it'll be a little bit of, an hour, maybe a couple hours in between the end of the game and the start of the show. Either way, you want to get notifications when we go live. You want to know when we go live so you can join the conversation. And then, of course, you always know when we post a new video, like these Morning Pitt videos, which we put out every day, Monday through Friday, every morning. We always have something to talk about. We always have something to discuss. And this way you get your morning fix, your morning dose of Pitt stuff. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and like this video also. That's big too. I really appreciate that. You can add some comments or questions on there, and we'll always interact and engage and back and forth. But like this video, the subscribe button is there. You can hit that as well. We appreciate it. And of course, the website Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. It is the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet. Football, basketball, recruiting. You can find it all at Panther-Lair.com. And message boards, which are definitely lively right now. As we come to the end of training camp and move into the regular season, Pitt fans have a lot to talk about, and they are talking at length on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com. So as we move toward Thursday night's season opener against West Virginia in the Backyard Brawl, there's so many angles you can take, different ways you can look at a team or a game or a matchup. And as far as it relates to Pitt, the team, I think we've looked at them from virtually every angle. Last week we went position by position and broke down every position here on the Morning Pitt. We spent some time at various points in August trying to find the flaws in this team, looking at the things we're not seeing, look at the things, trying to find those things that at the end of the season we'll look back and say, boy, how did we miss that? How do we not see that it would be an issue to have a new offensive coordinator? How did we not see that it would be an issue to have this inexperience at outside linebacker? How did we not see that it would be an issue to just think you could just keep rolling guys in at corner and never have any drop-off? How did we not see that it could be an issue for this or that? Trying to find those issues and kind of struggling a little bit. But I am finding myself thinking this week about ways things could go wrong. Simply because I wrote so much last week and have written so much in August about all the things that can go right. I mean, you talk about Kedon Slovis. How about this stat? He is the Pac-12's all-time leader in career completion percentage. 68.4% for his career. He's thrown more than 900 passes. So the cutoff, I think, is quarterbacks with at least 875 attempts. And so he's over that bar, and he's completed 68.4% of them to be the conference's all-time leader. He's 13th in NCAA history in career completion percentage among quarterbacks with at least 875 attempts. 13th in NCAA history. And this is the guy that that's just walking in as a starter. Yeah, that was something I really got into last week in the 3-2-1 column as I was writing about Pat Narduzzi naming Kedon Slovis the starter. I might have talked about it here on the Morning Pit as well. It's really remarkable how successful and how productive and how efficient he was during his time at USC. I mean, he was not a slouch. And that's really what separates him, I think, from, Max Brown as sort of a direct comparison, a quarterback coming to Pitt as a transfer from USC. I think there's a big difference between Max Brown and Kedon Slovis, and I think there are multiple differences between Max Brown and Kedon Slovis. The biggest difference, though, is how much Kedon Slovis has played and how much success he has enjoyed over the course of his career, where Max Brown did not have that. Joey Yellen did not have that. He had one or two games. I forget what Max Brown even did at USC, but it wasn't much. It wasn't what Slovis has done. And so that's what sets him up. For the flip side, Nathan Peterman didn't have that either, and he ended up being good. But if you're telling me I could either have the option of the guy who has competed at the highest level and succeeded at the highest level, or the guy who has not, that's not a decision, right? Obviously you're going to go with Slovis. You're going to go with the guy who has played. So, there's still a jury still out kind of feel on Kedon Slovis, and just, you're still waiting to see what he's actually going to do when he gets on the field, when he gets that opportunity. But it's hard to argue with the body of work. It's hard to argue with the resume. And so, again, we just kind of go and try and find those spots where maybe things could go wrong. Slovis not living up to his potential. Slovis not looking like or playing like he did 2 years ago and 3 years ago. That's certainly one. That's something to be concerned about, or at least to watch out for. And I have to think, as we settle in on Thursday night, that's going to be one of the first things we watch, is how Slovis throws the ball. Because, again, that's the decider between an 8-win season and another ACC championship. I really believe that. I think this roster is talented enough to win 8 games, kind of on their own, and then they're talented enough to win in Charlotte if Slovis plays at a high level. But I've said these things how many times over the summer. I mean, you guys know what I think about all of this stuff. You know very well what I think about Kedon Slovis and the state of this team heading into the 2022 season. On Friday, Pat Narduzzi announced the team captains: Deslin Alexandra, Servassier Dennis, Kedon Slovis, Carter Warren, 2 each from offense and defense. Deslin Alexandra gets the nod for the second year in a row. Pitt tweeted it out of their most recent 2-time captains. Deslin Alexandra in 21 and now this year, 22. Kenny Pickett was a captain in 2020 and 2021. Jimmy Morrissey in 2019 and 2020. Dennis Briggs, 2017 and 2018. And Aaron Donald in 2012 and 2013. Not a lot of 2-time captains. But what's really remarkable about this to me is not necessarily who got named, because I'm not surprised by Deslin Alexandra. I'm not surprised by Servassier Dennis. I'm not surprised by Carter Warren. Kedon Slovis, I wasn't sure. I actually thought there was a decent chance that Nick Patty might get voted a captain. That he had that much respect and has that much respect from the locker room and from his teammates, that he might actually get voted a captain. You might have starting quarterback and a team captain and not the same person. You know what I mean? You might have a backup quarterback who's a team captain. I thought there was a possibility of it. Didn't end up happening. Slovis got named. I'm not surprised, although I don't know if I would have picked him. What's remarkable to me is, I get it with Deslin Alexandra, Servassier Dennis, Carter Warren. And I would have gotten it with Habakkuk Baldonado and John Morgan and Eric Hallett and Marcus Minor, and Jared Wayne. Gavin Bartholomew. I wouldn't have been surprised by any of those guys. And I think that's maybe what's most remarkable to me is not just who they picked, but what's remarkable to me is the number of other guys who could have gotten picked that I wouldn't have been surprised by either. If you replace the 4 that got chosen with 4 out of the names that I just rattled off, 2 defense, 2 offense, I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. Marcus Minor, Jared Wayne on offense, Haba Baldonado and Eric Hallett on defense. I would not have batted an eye. I would have been like, yep, that makes sense. And I would have probably sat down here and said, I wouldn't have been surprised if it was Carter Warren and Kedon Slovis and Servassier Dennis and Deslin Alexandra. It speaks to the overall, first of all, giant senior class. I think there's now like 27 scholarship seniors on this team. It speaks to the overall leadership of this team. And really, that kind of then points to something I think that's pretty important that we've touched on from time to time, but probably doesn't get as much credit as is due. And that is that so many of these players, almost everyone they're relying on, has the experience of of reaching and then winning the ACC championship game. Almost every guy they're going to rely on this year. Not Konate Mumfield, not Bub Means, Kedon Slovis, no. Everybody on defense, Shane Simon. Although Shane Simon played in an ACC championship game 2 years ago. He at least was on the team that made the ACC championship game 2 years ago. Tyler Wiltz, I guess not. But you've got the vast majority of this team coming back from the experience of going 10-2 in the regular season, winning the ACC championship game, and getting to a New Year's Six Bowl. And what I've said a lot, and I think this is important, and it's funny. It sounds funny because it sounds like you're saying the same thing twice or 2 different ways. But I think there is a distinction to make. Not only do these guys understand what it takes to get there, they know what they had to do. They know how they had to work. They know how they had to approach every day, every week, the whole season. They know what they did to get there. They know what it takes to reach that level. But they also know where they fell short. They've all talked about that Western Michigan game and how they had a team meeting. And Kenny Pickett, even last season during the fall, would look back on that Western Michigan game and would talk about how that was a turning point for the team. They learned in that situation too. They learned from that experience as well. And they learned, I think, from the Miami game. Those 2 regular season losses, they learned from those. And I think the lessons they learned from those are just as valuable as the lessons they learned as far as what it takes to get to the level they reached last year. This should be a team that enters this season with no real need for a wake-up call, like the Western Michigan game. Last year's team, maybe. Maybe they needed that wake-up call. Maybe they were the type of team that needed that wake-up call, maybe a little young at some spots. Maybe they hadn't reached that level. Even the 2018 team, you go back to that team that won the Coastal Division, and we talk down on it and make fun of it and all this stuff. They learned some lessons. Those players, I think, learned some lessons that year, because if you look where, after they got crushed at UCF, I think they were 1-1 in the ACC at that point. They had beaten Georgia Tech and lost to North Carolina, another bad loss. But after the UCF game, they beat Syracuse. They lose at Notre Dame. And then they beat, Duke, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest. Five ACC games in a row before they lost the finale at Miami. So they won 5 in a row, and I think they learned lessons that year about how you get to the next level, what you need to do in order to get to the ACC championship game. I think they learned lessons then because they really did rally and win 5 conference games in a row, 4 games in a row because the Notre Dame game was in the middle there, but 5 ACC games in a row. And I think they learned those lessons. And I think some of those lessons were, returned to last season. In addition to some new lessons about kind of like, not only did you learn what you need to do, you learned what you really should not do. They learned how they could screw up a really great opportunity in the Western Michigan game. And to some extent the Miami game too. Because the Miami game, Tyler Van Dyke played great, but they were also really sloppy. Pitt was really sloppy. Pitt gave that game to Miami. And I don't mean to take anything away from Miami's performance, but when you look at the tackling in the first quarter, when you look at interceptions by Kenny Pickett, you look at the goofy, attempt at the Pitt special, I mean, there were multiple situations where you look at it and say, this game didn't have to happen this way. This was not predetermined. This game was in that group of games that, could go either way. And you blew it. You gave this game away. And I think they learned lessons from that. They learned what it looks like when you give a game away. A game that, when you look back in retrospect, you say, geez, if they hadn't screwed around with Western Michigan, if they hadn't screwed around with Miami, I mean, that what-if question of what the 2021 season could have been. I mean, you start getting into some lofty levels talking about the possibilities. But I think they learned those lessons as well. And so, to make a long story, or at least to wrap up a long digression on the captains here, I think there's a lot of leadership on this team and a lot of leadership that learned what it takes last season. And I think even the younger players learned what it takes last season. A guy like Gavin Bartholomew gets it. A guy like Bengali Kamara gets it. A guy like Dallin Hayes gets it. These guys understand, Rodney Hammond. They understand what it takes. And they understand what it takes to succeed, and they understand what kind of things you do that lead to blowing it. Sunday, kind of changing course real quick, just briefly, because it's not entirely Pitt, but it is Pitt related. On Sunday, Kenny Pickett, final preseason NFL game, and I guess I'm bringing that up because I went to the game yesterday. Got preseason tickets really cheap, took the kids. It was their first time going to a Steeler game. They loved it. They thought it was great, and they waited the whole first half for Kenny to come in. They really wanted Kenny to play. And that was, we could talk about how Kenny played. I thought he played well. I don't know if he should be the starter or not, whatever. This is not a Steelers podcast, although I do have a thought on that as it relates specifically to Kenny himself. But one thing that it was just remarkable, and I think I talked about something like this after the first preseason game. we're sitting there at Acrisure Stadium. It's the first quarter. It's the second quarter. And people are asking. I mean, people are talking, saying, like, where's Kenny? Is Kenny coming in? Is Kenny? I mean, my kids are asking me that because I told them we'd see Kenny play. But throughout the stadium, we're walking back up from buying French fries and sodas. And I walk past people and I hear, like, they're talking to each other. Like, there was a change of possession. Is he on the sidelines? Where is he? Where is Kenny coming in this one? Or, oh, it's Trubisky again. Okay, well, it's just Trubisky. And when he finally comes in, you know what I mean? And it's the start of the second half. And he comes out for that first possession. Man, it was as loud as the stadium got during the interception or the touchdown. I mean, everybody was excited. And like, I think it's such a cool thing to see that kind of synergy and overlap between Pitt and the Steelers and the city. Because it's not just, your average Pittsburgh sports fan and your regular Steelers fans getting excited about the first round draft pick quarterback. It's not just that. There is something more to it, where I think people like him because he went to Pitt, because they saw him at Pitt, because he's not your average first round draft pick quarterback. He is someone who has connections here, and I think the fans have connected with him. They want Kenny to be the guy. Now, here's the problem, and this is the, like I say, this is not a Steelers podcast, so we're not going to go too deep on this, but this is the thing as it relates to Kenny specifically. Sure, I think he should be the starter. I think he's going to play really well. I thought he made some great throws yesterday. He looked good. Mitch Trubisky looked great too, or looked good too. I don't think either guy looked like they're going to win you a Super Bowl tomorrow, but neither guy looked like he would be a vulnerability or a liability on the field. The problem with Kenny, though, or the problem for Kenny, or the one thing that causes me hesitation with Kenny, is that offensive line. And this is a common thing. I mean, people have been talking about this for a few weeks, that do you want to put Pickett out there to get killed behind that offensive line? The problem is, and this is specific to Kenny Pickett, self-preservation is not his default. Okay? He doesn't, when there's trouble, he doesn't automatically sort of look for how he can survive to play the next play. He looks for how he can make the play right now. And that's great, and it endears him to fans, and quite frankly, it's helped him win a lot of football games during his college career. But it's not necessarily the path to longevity. And some of that he's going to have to learn about and understand and manage a little bit better probably than his natural instincts are. But at the same time, you take a player like that and put him into a situation like this, that offensive line where he's going to be under pressure as much as he will, where he's going to be running for his life. That's a dangerous situation. And I'm not saying you sit him on the bench until the offensive line improves, because who knows how long that might take. Since they are, who knows? Who knows how long it'll take for that offensive line to improve. But you have another option right now who is not a bad option, who is not a liability. And I'm not saying I want to put Mitch Trubisky out there to get killed every week, but he's good enough to help you play and good enough to help you win or give you a chance to win. I think you need to stand pat with Kenny for now. I want to see him. I want to watch him play, just like everybody else does. But I think you need to stand pat, roll Trubisky out there, and just keep Kenny. Now, if there's an injury and you got to play him, you put him in and you play him. But for now, I think you can take your time just a little bit, because he is older. Just take a little bit of time and hope you can figure out an answer along the offensive line. Hope you can figure something out along the offensive line and go, get some better options out there, get better protection out there, and then give Kenny a real shot to succeed. Final note on the Pitt basketball front. This news kind of came out late last week. Confirmed through Pitt sources that Cassius McNeely, the junior college guard who is coming in this year, is not going to enroll. He's not going to make it to Pitt. This news started bubbling up over the last few weeks. I don't think Jeff Capel had really addressed it with his team. He was going to address it over the weekend. McNeely, coming from a junior college, but was, tied to, signed with, committed to, whatever you want to say, multiple different schools, and it looked like a pretty bumpy path. But it seemed that he was finally on the right course with Pitt, that Pitt was going to be the spot where he lands and actually sticks for a couple years and works it out, and something works out for him, and he makes something of it. But it sounds like there's a family situation. It's created some not severe, that's not the right word at all, some significant issues for him, some significant personal issues that he needs to address and take care of, and that he can't do from Oakland, from the towers or something like that. And so it's unfortunate. I think, and I don't know what role McNeely would have had this year at Pitt, but he would have been another guard to fill out more depth there. You obviously still have Nelly Cummings and Jamarius Burton and Nike Sabandi and Greg Elliott. You've got oh yeah. I was like, I know I forgot someone. Oh yeah, it's like the stud freshman that they brought in, Dior Johnson, who is on campus, who is enrolled, and who is set to play this year. That's actually going to happen. You've still got a strong enough guard rotation. I think that you should be able to survive, losing Cassius McNeely. It's unfortunate because it seemed like a great opportunity for the young man. It's unfortunate because the coaches obviously wanted to get him here and get him as part of the team, but it happens sometimes. And it's, you just sort of wish the best for him in his personal situations and issues. So it's unfortunate, but hopefully he can find a way to take care of what he needs to take care of, and then find a new opportunity. So best to Cassius McNeely. We're gonna have Morning Pitt episodes come out every day this week. Friday will probably just be the live stream that we do after the game on Thursday night. Not sure I'm gonna tape another Morning Pitt in addition to that, but we'll see. But we'll have stuff throughout the week. We'll react to Pat Narduzzi's first press conference of the regular season, which will be later today. We'll have a reaction episode for that. We'll get some West Virginia preview stuff. We're going to look forward to this game. We got a lot to do this week. So make sure you are subscribed to the buttons down there. Make sure you're subscribed to Panther-Lair.com on YouTube. It's youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Like this video. Leave a comment. Whatever you want to say. Love to have a conversation with you. Make sure you check out Panther-Lair.com. Panther-Lair.com. Pittsburgh.rivals.com. It's the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet. Football, basketball, and recruiting. It's all right there, Panther-Lair.com. Thanks so much for checking in. We appreciate it. Week 2 of the Morning Pitt. It's already off to a fun start, a great start. Look forward to the rest of the week. So we'll see you tomorrow morning. And then don't forget, Panther-Lair Show, live Panther-Lair Show Tuesday night, tomorrow night at 8:30. Not Wednesday night, Tuesday night at 8:30. Mark your calendars accordingly. So we'll see you live for that. But like I say, we'll have a new Morning Pitt tomorrow morning. So check that out. Have a great rest of the day. Can't wait to talk to you again. It's Brawl week. It's here. We're counting down the days. I should get a countdown clock on here. Let's see if I can figure out a place to put a countdown clock in. So we're counting it down to Thursday night. We'll be doing it right here. youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.